So welcome everybody, those who are new, those who are returning. As I said, I'm Danny Rubin. I'm talking to you from Virginia Beach, Virginia. I know a lot of you have been here before, but for those of you who are new, we always have some great stuff to pass out at the beginning. So let's get right to that. Okay, today we're talking about virtual internships. We are teaching students how to hold conversations with people in industry from wherever they might be, at home, at school, somewhere in between. So we're going to take students through an experience today where they get to ask questions to a professional, but we're also going to be learning about the process along the way. Okay, so before we learn about the process, I want to first share what we always like to do. Let me get my chat going again so I can see everybody. One thing we put together that I hope you'll all like, this is for the teachers, okay? We've put together a set of guides for virtual internships, learning how to engage with employers and professionals from a distance. We've put together a document with learning how to request a Q&A with a professional, like via email, how to prepare for the Q&A or a virtual site tour of a business, how to hold that Q&A with a professional, how to write a thank you email afterwards, and even how to describe a virtual internship experience on your resume or cover letter. So we put this together for those teachers who are interested, and I'll tell you just a minute how to get it. Okay, so just hang tight one sec, and I'll explain the brief instruction. We've also, if you haven't received this yet, I know many of you, we've given this out over the months, but raise your hand if, sorry students, I know you're here. Raise your hand if your students tend to write emails like they're texting. The hands go up. Students, if you're paying attention, what we want to teach and what we want you to learn is how to write effective messages so that you're not going to be held back by the quality of your writing. So we've also put together this unit for free on how to write an effective email. I'll give you a second to scan your eye down the page for the teachers. Okay, so we're teaching the various parts of an email, how to put an email together, and when students complete the unit, they can earn a digital badge. How many of you give out digital badges or credentials to your students? Show of hands, how many of you give out credentials? So we are another credential. So if you would like our virtual internship guides and the email etiquette unit, if you don't have it yet, here's all you have to do. Go to the chat right now, type the word interested and your email address. Okay, and what we like to do for the new people, this is just for teachers, not students. For the new people, we love to do a 5-minute phone call in the coming days to help get to know you better and to help you make sense of this material within your own program. Okay, so it's a quick, how you doing? Because we can't talk to each other like we like to do. We're not going to conferences. We're not standing at an exhibit booth. We can't meet people like we like to do. So we have a quick call, give out the resources, talk about it, you're on your way. So for those of you who are interested, thank you for those who are already doing it. We will be in touch in the coming days. We'll put you on the calendar for just a few minutes if you're new to our community, and we'll have a quick call either tomorrow or early next week in your time zone, of course, okay? So feel free to keep the interesteds coming. We'll move on to the next thing, but feel free to keep sharing, and we'll talk about it again towards the end. Now, our next webinar, super excited. Here we go. First of all, who here is a business or marketing teacher? Now, this is for anybody, but especially for business and marketing. Okay. And Renee, I love your comment. If you could switch your setting to all panelists and attendees and do it again, that'd be awesome. Because only we can see it right now. All right, here we go. Our next virtual internship, climb on the bus. We are exploring the world of digital marketing. It'll be Thursday, October 22nd, 12:30 Eastern. And our guest is Steve Schiff. He is a digital content editor for magazines that include Oprah, Elle, Cosmo, Delish, Men's Health, Prevention Magazine, Country Living. Raise your hand if you read any of those magazines or see them in the grocery store. So he puts together really cool, cutting edge digital content for the websites for these magazines. And he's going to show us how he does his job. So he's working at the highest levels. He's in Manhattan, national magazines, national brand sponsors. This is as cool as it gets. So for the DECA students, the FBLA, really anybody who has an interest in just how the big stuff comes together, please join us on the 22nd. So we will put out the link to the registration for that shortly. but I want you to mark it on your calendar now. Tell the other teachers in the building, we want you to be there. All right, now, for those who attend today, everybody who's here live, thank you for being here live. And for the students who are watching, hello to the students who are watching through their teacher's computer, okay? We are going to give you a certificate, teachers and students. Raise your hand if you've already used or put to use or showed off a certificate from a previous webinar we've done. Who has already gotten the certificate? So we're going to hand out a certificate for today. Teachers can use it for their own continuing ed. Students can use it in their portfolios. Okay. So we're going to pass that out too. So look for that in your email probably tomorrow. All right. Now, what are we going to do today? We're going to talk just briefly about how to prep for a Q&A, and then we're going to bring back in our guest. Okay. So let me share my screen another way. I want to take just a minute and explain. Let me get my chat going again. Okay. So for those who are new, it's important you understand, and for those who have heard this before, just bear with me. But it's really important that everyone knows where this instruction comes from, especially the new people. So our company provides a curriculum called Emerge. And it's an online curriculum that teaches practical communication skills like what we're doing today. How many teachers in the chat today are using Emerge right now? I know we have a handful of teachers using it. With it, we work with Canvas and Schoology and various LMS to embed our content in or Google Classroom, to embed our content so you can teach students practical skills like email writing right from where you're already teaching. Okay, so we cover 3 different key areas: employability skills, entrepreneurship skills, and leadership skills. But our special focus is writing and speaking, because we know that how we write and how we speak dictates our opportunities. Thank you, Paige, for being here and using our material. I know we just spoke last week about what you're doing with Emerge. So we teach students practical skills across these 3 areas, and we offer digital badges, like I mentioned. We also have some content designed for middle school. Any middle school teachers here? We have special material for middle school, and then lots and lots of content for students to do at the high school level or college. Okay, and we cover these. I'll just show you the topics quickly, then we'll get into the webinar. We cover email etiquette, learning how to write emails, life skills like how to sign your name in cursive. Raise your hand if you believe cursive writing is a lost art. Well, we teach that in our program. We teach how to write our own name. We teach phone and video etiquette, like how to leave voicemails and how to hold Zoom conversations or Google Meets or whatever, Microsoft Teams, whatever you're on. Yvonne says, bring cursive back. We're trying, Yvonne. We're going to do our best. We teach networking emails, resume writing, storytelling cover letters. Many of you have heard us talk about storytelling cover letters. We can explain it further after the webinar for those who are not familiar, but it's a great strategy to stand out from the pack. Internship and job outreach emails, and learning how to communicate through virtual internship experiences like today. LinkedIn profile creation, job interview prep. How many folks here, I always like to ask, how many people here are marketing teachers or CTSO advisors? Who here is a DECA advisor or HOSA or FBLA or Skills USA, or tell me what you're advising. We teach students how to promote projects, how to write well for sales, write website pages, write student e-portfolios, write public relations outreach, write fundraising pitches. We also cover leadership skills, writing as a manager or a leader on the team, writing skills to customers and clients, project management correspondence, public speaking exercises, writing reports and summaries of your work to your boss, and activities for student leaders, students who are in leadership roles, learning to be a good writer and speaker in those different capacities. So we cover a variety of skills that you can take little by little and add into your LMS, so students leave your doors knowing how to write and speak and conduct themselves like a young adult, and that's why we call ourselves Emerge. Okay, so what I want you to do while I'm getting set up for our Q&A with Hamilton, how many of you prepared some questions for today? And actually, I was remiss. VJ, if you still have it available, throw in that worksheet link. I was remiss. And also, a few minutes later, throw in the flyer for the next webinar. This is a worksheet. How many of you put out or teachers grabbed this worksheet from us to help guide the session? I apologize. I should have thrown it in a few minutes ago. But what I'm gonna ask the questions out loud anyway, so it's not a big deal if you don't have it, but we put together a worksheet prior to that students can use to guide themselves through. So the first thing we're gonna cover, thank you, Elizabeth, very much for using the worksheets, I'm so glad. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about how to prepare to meet a business professional, okay? Before the conversation happens, how many people know that preparation is key to success? Raise your hand if you know that preparing for the moment is just as important, if not more important, than the moment itself. So here's what we're gonna do. A lot of hands going up. I'm glad you agree with that. Oh, Brooke Bell said, our students did a short intro presentation on Hamilton and his website to teach the other classmates about what we'd be learning today. That's amazing. And please, everybody, change your settings to all panelists and attendees. Brooke, that's so cool. I want everyone to see that. So please change your settings and paste that again. All right, so prior to, I've provided several times links to Hamilton's website, all right? And actually, let me go back to the jump because I don't want to give it away. Now, what I want you all to do, and you may have already done this, and we're going to do it together so you learn together. But for future opportunities, I want you to get this in your head. So when you're going to learn about somebody before the conversation, because it's important that they know that you've done your homework on them. It makes them like you more because you've done your homework. This is Hamilton Perkins' awesome website with his super cool product that he's about to show us. Now let me ask the group, look at the screen right now. Let's say that we learned about his products, we saw the products, we saw the pricing, da-da-da. But let's say we want to learn about the company's latest achievement, something new, something fresh. What would you click on what you're seeing right now? What would you click on to learn about the latest and greatest going on with Hamilton Perkins Collection? Someone type in the chat, what link would you click on from what you're seeing right now? So Julia and Isabella said about. Now that is often a page that doesn't always change, okay? The about page, you can write it one time and not touch it for several years. I see it coming through now. Annetta says it, Christian says it, blog, okay? This is what I want you to think about for future interviews, when you're applying to colleges, anytime you're about to sit down for an interview, I want you to go to that place, the website for that organization, and I want you to go to a page like blog or a page like press releases or latest news. This is the good stuff. Raise your hand if you went to this page on Hamilton's site and saw this article about this really cool collaboration he did with the New York City Department of Sanitation providing recyclable masks. Incredible, okay? So what we want to do is show up to that conversation already having a question prepared about something we read on his blog. Because what's the date? Somebody tell me, what date do you see? When was this written? Put it in the chat. Now that's pretty recent, right? That's about a month ago. Now, Hamilton would probably say he wrote his about page probably a few years ago. But this is a month old. This is as fresh as it gets. This is the latest, greatest thing he's doing. So if you go to him and you bring up this news story, he's going to find you so much more interesting because you know a little bit about him. He's not just there to give you advice. You're there to show that you care about what he does. And you're not just going to be a sponge or just sit there and just, absorb it. Okay, so I want you to, we're going to do this at all of our virtual internships. We're always going to learn to go to the website first. And then we're going to do our homework. It doesn't take very long. But we have to do our homework and come to that conversation ready with questions about their recent work. And if you can learn this strategy, it's going to land you a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunities in your life because most people do not think to do this at any age. And it's going to make you more capable and more mature than even people much, much older than you for opportunities, okay? All right, so with that said, let me turn off the share. Oh, actually, let me do it this way first. For those of you who have the worksheet, or just, and if you could, VJ, please put question 1 in the chat. All right, and also it's on the worksheet if you have the worksheet, or it's just in the chat in just a minute. It'll say, why is it important to research people or companies and prepare questions before you meet the person or visit the company? I want to give the students just a few seconds to answer that question in their own way. And then I'm gonna stop share as we do it. And let's have Hamilton come on back in. Hamilton, can you turn on your video? There you go, and your mic. Awesome. Let's give students another 10, 20 seconds to write down that answer. When you show, let me just put it to you this way, everybody. If you show interest in someone else, it makes them much more likely to take an interest in you. Let me say that again. If you take an interest in somebody else, they are much more likely to take an interest in you. So think about this strategy, not just for virtual internship Q&As, but for job interviews. What if you walked in that room with questions about the company from their blog? Within 20 seconds, they're already halfway to hiring you because they're so impressed that you actually did your homework. Okay? Now, we'll bring back Hamilton. Thank you, Hamilton. And so we had some folks, we did a little bit of a discussion a few minutes before we started, but let's kind of start from scratch, okay? And I want to have you introduce yourself and your company. Just take a few seconds on that, and then I'll ask you a question about how you got the business started. And then while you're talking, we'll look at some of the questions. We're new at this webinar series for internships. Please put your questions in the Q&A button down at the bottom. Okay, I already have a few questions. But please put your questions in the chat, and after a brief convo with Hamilton and me, we'll bring your questions in and we'll ask your questions. And when you write your question, please put your name and your school so that we can share who you are asking the question, okay? So Hamilton, I've known you a long time. We've been friends a while, and I admire your journey. Tell everybody, give us kind of the background on Hamilton Perkins Collection, how it began, and kind of give us the quick timeline up through today.
Yeah, thank you, Danny, for this whole setup. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And yeah, so we started about 4 years ago. I'm the founder of Hamilton Perkins Collection. We make award-winning bags and accessories from recycled materials. We use recycled plastic water bottles, pineapple leaf fiber, billboards, and much more. We've been mentioned in Forbes, Fast Company, The Washington Post, Money Magazine. We've worked on multiple Fortune 500 client projects, including HP, Dow Chemical, Nordstrom, TJ Maxx, and many more. We're headquartered here in Norfolk, Virginia, and started on Kickstarter. So we started with a $10,000 crowdfunding goal. We hit the goal in about 6 days. We shipped about $25,000 in pre-orders, and we took about 5 or 6 months to make that very first production run. We kicked off a series of trunk shows at Bloomingdale's in New York City. We hopped around from the 59th Street location to the Soho location to country clubs to malls, and eventually we figured out that we were going to need more support for our production, and we traveled. We took a trip to Haiti where we were manufacturing some product at the time, got a chance to see the fashion sector there, got really inspired, came back to the States, and hit the ground running with sales. So we started working with boutiques, specialty retail stores. We were able to sell the product into a couple hundred retail locations stateside, and call it 90% of our customer base is stateside, and then another 10% international. And then we caught the retail bug. So we really got inspired by seeing our customers layout and seeing how they merchandise product and told the story. So we opened our own store here in Norfolk, Virginia. We ran it for about a year. It was a temporary store. We were kind of on a temporary format, and then the pandemic hit. And for us, we figured it would be a lot more safe if we just closed the store and just work remote, focus on our corporate sales program, focus on even being able to do things like this. So that kind of brings us up to the current.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's very hard as an entrepreneur to summarize, because every day there's a million tasks, and to put it all into 2 minutes is hard, but you pulled it off. Why don't you take a couple products off your shelf, put them up in front of the camera, let everybody see some of your cool things, and then we have a lot of questions in the Q&A. So we'll get right to the Q&A questions, but show us some of your products first.
Yeah, so I mean, the very first thing about our product is a differentiator is that each product's always unique and different. Because we use recycled materials like plastic water bottles or vinyl signs, no two bags are ever alike. So as you can see here, these are the same style. The canvas here is made from recycled plastic water bottles. The pocket that you see here, and I have no idea what's going to be inside of here. Hopefully,
Yeah, show us the inside because every inside is unique too with the billboard material. Look at that. So that is old billboard material inside the backpack. So every inside is unique too. How cool is that? Raise your hand if you think this is cool. Do the kids say dope? Is that still a thing kids say? I think it's pretty dope.
Yeah, so
a lot of hands going up.
Fortunate to kind of come up with a business model where we're able to take something old, something that is normally discarded. We bring that to the market in terms of either on our website or we sell it through retailers, and then we have a corporate sales program where we work with brands, we work with big companies that have a need for a creative outlet, and we make bags for their use as well.
Awesome. Well, we have so many questions lined up in this Q&A. So I'm going to toss it over to Vijay. He's been furiously looking through the Q&A. Vijay, give us a question and the student who asked it.
Sure. We have a few different questions about kind of what inspired you to start the company. Carolyn from VCU, Janice, a few anonymous folks, but really I think the focus is on kind of what made you want to start your own business.
For sure. Yeah, I think growing up, I was fairly entrepreneurial. I had a locker decoration business in middle school. I cut lawns in the summer. I washed cars. I eventually worked my way into the mall and retail where I sold sneakers and sportswear and eyewear and worked in interior design prior to, kind of going to college. I studied marketing. And, I really was inspired by the brand, the brands that I was selling and, kind of that connection point between like commerce and art. And eventually I just started making products that I could sell to friends and family. I've been doing that kind of like low key under the radar. Worked in banking for about 6.5 years. So on the nights and weekends, I would take trips to New York.
Side hustle, right? They call it a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, side hustle was, take a trip to New York on my, paid time off, go walk, from 42nd Street to, Wall Street, basically, and just like look through all the different, boutiques and look at all the, if at all, look for like anyone making stuff and, discovering the garment district and discovering that there was, actually bag manufacturing happening right in New York, and just being naive and kind of bouncing around. Eventually, yep. I went back to business school. I got an MBA at William and Mary, and was basically making this product for everything from my classmates to professors, and eventually, I kind of was in my position. I said, well, everything I'm doing at this point is to move up. I want to become a CEO one day. I want to have a chief executive leadership role. And, I just mapped out the time of, from an inspiration standpoint,
awesome.
It wasn't going to be anytime soon where I could really have the impact that I wanted.
Yep.
At the same time, I'm realizing that compounded annual growth rates in the media industry for print was just going up since mid-90s, which, for me, that seemed like, there was probably an opportunity there. There was also more plastic produced in the prior 10 years than there had in the previous 100 years. So that seemed like a problem. There weren't a lot of options. I was faced with a personal decision. Do I want to kind of go in a regular store and just buy like a bag that's, just regular off the shelf bag, as they call it in the industry? And there wasn't anything that spoke to me. So I ended up coming back from that trip, excited to make something new and fresh, and just surveyed our customers and kind of started collecting pre-orders from there.
Awesome. Awesome. This is great stuff. We have so many questions. Let me throw it back to Vijay and see another good one that he's found.
Sure. I think a question that's probably on the top of mind for a lot of folks is how has COVID affected kind of sustainable sourcing for your business?
Wow.
And kind of
great. Who asked that question?
That was Juliet Carter.
That's a next level question, Juliet. Very, very nice. Go ahead, Hamilton.
Yeah, when it comes to sustainable sourcing, kind of throughout the pandemic, it's caused us to take extra precaution. It's caused us to add layers and systems that we maybe already had, but we've had to expand on those. So, for example, sanitizing materials prior to production and sanitizing materials again prior to ship. Jumping into the mask business when we were initially a bag business. We've had to close and shut down sort of multiple opportunities for in-person, kind of events. And, we were a company that did 180 live events roughly last year.
Wow.
And we ended up, doing virtually zero. I mean, we did events up to February. The last event we did was, we were at New York City Refashion Week in New York and the Brooklyn Army Terminal. And, it just seemed like, after that, the whole world kind of just stopped. So as far as our, processes, we're still, seeking, talented and, some of the world's best sort of suppliers for whether it be textiles or packaging. We're constantly evaluating processes at our factories. We have had factories have to close. We've had factories have to have, less staff because, depending on the state, they are unable to sort of operate. We have production stateside and overseas. So it makes it for a lot of logistics. We've also bolstered our team a bit, so we did take somewhat of a dip on team and hours, and then we kind of, ramp back up. So, we're back in sort of full swing thinking about Black Friday here coming up shortly.
That's right. Look, life keeps moving, right? You got to just keep up. VJ, how about another question?
Sure. I think it'll kind of come right off of your last comments on team. We had a few folks that were interested, Karen Mitchell and also Ruxana Nazir, actually coming in from Pakistan. They were asking how many people were on your team at the beginning.
Beginning, we had one. That was me.
That's how it starts.
Yeah, I worked the business, basically by myself. I had friends pitch in when they could, and I've been fortunate to, have, everything from family and friends kind of, chip in here. They hear we have something going on and say, hey, you need a hand, I'll come and help out. Or, you need help, lifting 10,000 pounds of billboards in the first year is roughly how many billboards we repurposed for the year. We were able to get, had friends lend me a truck so that I can, do that. Or, if I get a truck on my own, they'll help me load it. So definitely a team effort. We've had, teammates come virtually all over to work with us, working across, multiple states and countries, and, kind of piling it all on to kind of make the best product that we can for the customer.
Awesome. How about one more, VJ?
Sure. We had a number of questions on the materials themselves. So we had some who were interested in the pineapple fiber bags, and really, how did you create those, and how long did that process take, and kind of where do you collect your materials from?
And before you answer that, do you have a pineapple product around you right now? Could you show people one? I don't put you on the spot.
I don't. I can direct you to the site.
That's okay. Just tell us about how that concept came to be.
Yeah, I think just activity. When you're in motion, things happen, opportunities present themselves. Myself, I'm always looking for interesting partnerships. I'm always looking for suppliers that can provide, a unique angle that our customer can appreciate. And I heard of a company and they were already doing the work. But, it took a while for us to kind of forge that relationship between myself, my designer, and my team. And we were able to create a partnership with a company out of Europe called Pinatex. And so Pinatex is, this amazing company. They get the pineapple leaves. They work with the smallholder farmers. They bring that material back to Europe and process it. It was kind of founded by a PhD, leather executive who has a lot of experience in the industry and kind of particularly came from the leather side of it, I believe. But, over time, developed a sustainable product through a series of grants and stuff like that. So we source the material from them. We purchase it, we pay for it by the linear meter, and then send it to our factories. We also kind of, complete somewhat of the last mile of sourcing with vinyl signs or fabric signs or parachutes. I mean, it could be anything that we have in stock, and then, you know, we kind of create something that's new from like a bag and accessory standpoint. So that's how that came about.
Awesome. Just real quick, there was a question I thought it was pretty funny. Students asked, "Did you design your own suit jacket too?"
No, I didn't. I didn't design this one. This is actually a gift. Fortunately, we have, you know, lots of clients, and I had a client in the apparel business that sent me this as a gift.
That's called trade, right? That's called trade.
Oh, what am I talking about? This is a gift from my wife, actually.
Oh yeah, don't get her.
This is a gift
this is
from my wife.
recorded. That was actually the next thing I was going to say. Anyway, somebody had asked, "Will this be recorded?" Yes, we will be sending a recording of this out tomorrow morning, so you can share this with students and teachers. It'll be on our YouTube channel forever, so you can always use it after the fact. But yeah, I know your wife. You don't want to get on her bad side with forgetting that she gave you that that jacket.
I was thinking about a shirt. This is
Let's do a couple more questions, VJ, and then we're going to do a little wrap up with learning how to send a proper thank you email. So let's do one right now and maybe one more.
Sure. Lori Hummer says that her students are interested in what classes you took in high school, Hamilton, and which ones may have influenced you the most.
Great question.
Yeah, that's a good question. So in high school, I took, I took the regular classes. You know, I won't say I took like a fashion class or a photography class. I think I always wanted to, but I was really more sports focused in high school. I think my curiosities extended beyond sort of the classroom, just personally. Like, I think I found myself, learning by, my locker decoration business being shut down. Like, that was kind of a way of making, what I would do. I'd take magazines, cut the magazine into, like art, like a collage, and then I would kind of sell that as like a, like a decoration service. So like, those were really like, things that like from just like a entrepreneurial spirit that kind of guided me. But, definitely, accounting stands out to me as like a course that I had in class or in, in school that when I was in high school, really, it's very foundational of what we do today. Accounting, and even I'm trying to think of some other ones from high school.
Well, raise your hand, everybody, if you just took note on that. That was a really good little piece of insight. Accounting, right? It's not always, look, marketing classes are great and it all matters, but accounting, right? You wouldn't have thought he was going to say that, but it's a business, right? We have to learn how to run a business.
And English too, everything,
English.
We're communicating, writing. That's so important. If I would have known what I know now, I would have doubled down on all this stuff. I would have been, and I, to some extent I was, but like I say, I was more geared towards sports and kind of, extracurricular activities. So, in high school, I think the fact that anyone's on this call, you're well advanced, you're going to do well. You already have your head on straight. Myself, I sort of looked at, I was still figuring out what did I want to do? How did I want to get there? If you look back in my yearbook, it says you will work in, fashion in some capacity. You will do that. But I think it took me years of the reps and the time to know like my version of that and how that would actually play out. And, by having a lot of experiences and, just working really hard, I was able to sort of figure out exactly, what I wanted to do. And I still continue to educate myself today, whether it's picking up books or listening to podcasts or, interviewing our customers on our own podcasts.
Yep. Thank you for that. And I'm blown away by the number of questions that we've received. This was such an experimental webinar and it's been so good. BJ, let's have one more question from the list and then we're going to do a little bit of a wrap-up activity.
Sure. Carissa asks, Hamilton, what is your favorite product? And if you can't pick one, kind of what are your top three? And lastly, what is something you hope to achieve in the future?
Yeah. So, because our products are all unique and different because of the material, I can say that they all are super special. I really, thinking through our very first design, our Earth Bag Premium is 2 bags and 1 backpack duffels. Those are always going to have a, kind of special place in the collection because that's the first product we ever made. We interviewed 1,000 people to get the design criteria We launched it on Kickstarter with lots of success, and it still continues to be in our top selling suite of product. Our belt bags or our hip bags are really popular right now as we are in the pandemic. Everyone wants to stay hands-free. You know, they're looking for ways to, you know, keep their, you know, whether you have a mask or a glove or, you know, hand sanitizer or whatever, you can keep that kind of close. And then, you know, I'd say our mask business is definitely, you know, taken off. You know, we couldn't have imagined, I mean, the shortest sort of window of R&D and sort of pattern, you know, design, pattern making, sample making, production. I mean, the amount of things we had to condense in such a short period of time and sort of correlate that to the website, you know, is definitely a huge task. So for that, you know, that's another product that stands out. Long term, you know, I'd say we want to continue to have impact. We want to change the shape and the face of how consumers think about recycling, how businesses view their role in recycling. And that's why, you know, we do our best to educate, whether it's through content or to work with brands and companies and sort of connect the dots with them and the consumer, because to us, you know, we all have our responsibility in this, whether it's just being more thoughtful about what you're doing on a daily basis, or supporting a company that, you know, is taking the extra step. And even if you're in your own lane and you're in a completely different industry, like I want to make sure that like I've done my part and that our team does our part to sort of bring awareness to that.
Awesome. Great stuff. We're gonna kind of learn the whole process of holding a Q&A. I know there's lots of questions. This has been wonderful, but we also want to respect Hamilton's time and your time in your instructional period. So here's what we're gonna do as a last little nugget here, and then you can have the opportunity to practice it with Hamilton, actually, which would be so cool. So I'm gonna share the screen once more. All right. And let's talk about for just a minute about how to send a thank you email after a Q&A. So let's say that Hamilton gave you his time, which he did. Let's say it was one-on-one even. How cool would that be? And he gave you a bunch of great insights and nuggets about how to work hard to grow something from scratch in this case. So let me give you, and we'll remind the teachers in a minute, we provided this sample as a free resource, and I'll tell you how to get it if you missed it the first time. Just hang tight 1 second. But I want to just briefly go through this message. And here's the most important thing. Thanks again for your time. And then thanks for meeting with me this morning, this afternoon. I enjoyed learning more about your company. And here's the kicker. You're going to share in your email a piece of advice the person gave you to prove you listened. For instance, I like how you suggested I learn more online animation skills during my virtual internship. I will look at Animation X and Acme Animation and see if my internship coordinator can give me access to either software program. Very specific information back in the message. So you're proving to the person you listened, you heard them, you took it to heart, and it makes your thank you message even more meaningful than if you just wrote, thanks so much, that was great. Thanks so much, that was great. I want to teach you to be detail oriented at all times. So you're going to be detail oriented with questions you prepare for them, detail oriented with the thank you email afterwards. All along the way, you look your absolute best. And this same strategy works for actual job interviews and internship interviews. Show the person you appreciate what they said and you can recite it back to them. And then you may want to, whatever the final line might be about a follow-up or an opportunity or a next conversation, whatever it is. But this is the part I really want you to understand. Raise your hand if you understand what I'm saying to you right now. That when you add something special to a message, it goes from here to here. And it makes you unforgettable. Raise your hand if you want to be unforgettable in this world. If you want to be somebody that other people never forget. The way you get there is by focusing on the details. Hamilton will be the first to tell you it's all about the details. You have to live in the details. That's where success happens. So I want you to think about how you can be specific and focused and show lots of evidence that you've done your homework. That's going to make you stand out throughout your life. Okay? Now, and VJ had put it in the chat, and I had neglected that question 3. while I'm going to switch back as we wrap up to something for the teachers, for the students, I want you to go to questions 3 and 4. BJ, if you can put question 4 as well in the chat. Question 3 goes back to our first discussion. If you can remember, and now you have to kind of pull back on your memory, what are some of the pages on a company website you need to look at to learn about the company's latest and greatest successes? Give me a quick little list on your worksheet about the pages we talked about. And question 4, what is the biggest key about a thank you email after a conversation? I still have my screen on it right here. Okay, so I want you to fill in questions 3 and 4, and then we're going to do a quick wrap up with the teachers. So let me share my screen once more. So for those of you who missed it at the beginning, just a few things to hit on. We mentioned that we put together this virtual internship guide, a free guide covering so many things we've already talked about and even things we didn't. Teaching students how to request Q&As, how to hold the Q&A, how to write a thank you message afterwards, how to even talk about these experiences on your resume or cover letter. And for those of you who don't have this yet as well, we have an email etiquette unit teaching students how to write effective emails. And they can even earn a digital badge once they complete that. So for those of you who missed it at the beginning, these are free resources for you and your students. So for the teachers here who missed it the first time, all you have to do is type the word interested in the chat, excuse me, and your email address. Those of you who are new to our community, we like to have a brief phone call in the coming days to pass along the resources, help you make sense of it, understand your own program better, your class better. So if you missed it on the front end, please request it now, and we will be sure to be in touch with you so we can pass it along. Excuse me. Got a tickle in my throat. I'll give you a second to do that. So those of you who wrote interested, please include your email address as well so we can reach out. We will send you a 5-minute brief Google Calendar conversation in the coming days. If the time doesn't work for you, just respond back and suggest another time. But it's so important that we actually have real conversations with you. And it's not just one-sided where you're just listening. We want to get to know you. We want to understand what you're doing. So thank you for those who commented with interested. Also, if you missed it, and VJ, feel free to share in the chat, we have a link to a flyer for this webinar on October 22nd, which is 2 weeks from today. And there's actually a link to register in that flyer, so you could actually register now, become one of the first to claim a seat, because we had a lot of people today. We might start running out of room. So we're going to talk to Steve Schiff to explore the world of digital marketing. He's a digital content editor for magazines that include Oprah, Elle, Cosmo, Delish, Men's Health, Prevention, Southern Living, all kinds of magazines. He does really cool digital projects for those major magazines. He works and lives in Manhattan. He's going to tell us all about it. So teachers, please come back and see us on the 22nd. Tell more teachers. If we need to make the room bigger, we'll make it bigger. Because I got to say, out of all the webinars we've done, and we've done a lot, this is our biggest crowd and that have attended live. So I think there's a lot of traction here. So the flyer, Nicholas asked, if you scroll up a little bit, or maybe post it one more time, BJ. Post the flyer one more time. There it is. Click that link right there. It'll take you to the flyer. You can share that throughout the school, and students can click the link, and you can register too. All right? And as just one more reminder that we're going to be passing out a certificate of completion for attending today to all the teachers and students who are here live. So look for that in the teacher's email, or in your email if you're here as a student logged in, and we'll send that out shortly, probably tomorrow morning. And you can use that any which way you choose. Look at that. We covered, boy, did we do a lot today or what? Let me bring Hamilton back in one last time. You can bring your camera back on. We did a lot in 45 minutes. And I hope you learned a lot too. I want to say a special thank you to Hamilton. Thank you to VJ for being great on the ones and twos, as they say, on the controls. And I think students just really enjoyed learning about you. Hamilton, I do want to, some teachers were asking about, how can students get involved? Do you need some street team students? Do you need some interns in California? Like, what are you, if people want to help you promote what you're doing, get that real experience, what's available to them right now?
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. Our website's always open. It's hamiltonperkins.com. Feel free to check us out there. You know, right now we're, you know, just, we have to double down on products, and we got to double down on Black Friday. So, you know, we're kind of heads down on that and thinking
Sure.
about Q1, Q2 of 21. But, you know, always glad to, you know, do what I can do to help or be a sounding board. You know, be great, you know, do what you can do, you know, take something, you know, look for what you're doing already. Look, you know, find one thing, you know, something like this, you know, find one piece, and what can you apply, you know. I've already listened, and I've already gone back to some things that I can do just by listening to Danny. So I think it's just, you know, continuing that cycle, and you know, and just spreading the positivity.
Awesome. I want to end on a little pop quiz. I want to see who was paying attention, because it underscores so much how to talk about yourself and your successes. Who remembers earlier Hamilton talked about doing a Kickstarter fundraiser? And how many days did it take him to reach his goal? Who remembers the number he said? Look at that. Boom. Now, why is it important that he said 6? Why is it important that you know that? Do you think 6 is impressive? Raise your hand if you think 6 is impressive. 6 days to hit your fundraising goal. I think it's impressive. But what if he said, oh yeah, we reached our goal real fast? If he said real fast, what would you have thought? Would you have thought 6? Or would you have thought like 30? Right? If he said we've reached our goal really fast, what number would you have thought? Yep, Brianna said 30. So what I want you to understand, and we'll talk about this throughout these webinars, you have to own your numbers. You need to own your successes, own your stats. Talk about accounting, right? Do your own accounting. And when you do a fundraiser in 6 days, you tell the world it's 6 days. You don't say it was quick. You say 6. And I want you to think about, as we close here, I want you to think about your own numbers. What numbers do you own? How much money have you raised for projects? How many people came to an event you put on? How many hours did you put in training for volleyball season? What numbers do you have? That's how you talk about yourself. And those are the types, and the fact that you remember he said 6 says it all, because we never forget that type of information. Brianna says you have to be clear when you speak like this. That's right. We want you to be clear. So let's summarize. You're clear when you're preparing your questions. You're clear when you're writing your thank you note. You're clear on your own successes. And if you can do that in high school, college, and beyond, you can do anything. The world will open to you. Doors will open to you if you know how to talk about yourself and how to talk to others. So we're going to continue learning these lessons throughout the fall. I want to thank all the teachers and students who were here today. This was awesome, really awesome. Thank you, Hamilton. Thank you, VJ. We'll be in touch shortly with follow-up conversations and the recording and the certificates and all that good stuff. So hang tight. We'll be in touch with you. And thank you all for being here. Stay safe and healthy wherever you are. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.